Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the TCPalm Editorial Board meeting to interview candidates for Fort Pierce City Commission District 1. I'm columnist Gil Smart, and I'm joined today by fellow editorial board members Larry Reisman, columnist and community editor, and Adam Neal, editor and news director. I'm going to lead today's questioning and open to other board members at the end if they have questions. Visuals editor Kelly Rogers is going to direct our video coverage, and if we get questions from our social media audience, we might decide to pose one or two at the end of the session. Thanks to our candidate. Well, I want to thank our candidate, Curtis Johnson Jr., for streamlining this process by completing the questionnaires ahead of time. Reggie Sessions, the incumbent commissioner, has not responded to messages, to emails and text messages to appear on today's broadcast. If he does wish to appear during the course of our broadcast, we will add him to it, but right now we do not expect that. Anyway, I want to thank Mr. Johnson for filling out his questionnaire. Board members have reviewed it, and that can be found at tcpalm.com/elections, along with other stories, videos, and information about the November 3rd election. At the conclusion of today's interview, the editorial board members will discuss possibly writing an editorial to recommend a candidate in this race. We've got several questions today. We may end up having more of a conversation than just a simple Q&A. The goal here is to be completed in 45 minutes to an hour at most, and because of our time constraints, I'm going to ask Mr. Johnson to keep his answers concise and be respectful of others. I don't think I have to ask that, but we'll start the question here. Mr. Johnson, if you would, for our viewers, just briefly introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and why you're running.
Thank you, Gil. My name is Curtis Johnson. I was born and raised right here in Fort Pierce, Florida. Matriculated through the school systems, defined public school systems here in Fort Pierce, graduated Fort Pierce Central High School in 1985, where I furthered my career after that at Florida A&M University. Graduated there in 1990 with a business degree and further extended my studies and got a master's in marketing in 1992. Other than that, a career journeyman, work person. My first job actually was back here in Fort Pierce, believe it or not, working for a pharmaceutical company, and spent about 25 years in the corporate sector, working for a number of large pharmaceutical companies in various roles, starting from sales to training to leading teams. And I'm running because as I return to my native city, the city that I love, the city that taught me a lot, that nurtured me, allowed for me to develop as a person and as a leader. I want to step up to the plate now and on the platform of recognizing the vision that's coming, making sure that the district and Fort Pierce, that we're prepared to take a hold of that vision, make sure people are prepared for the vision and see themselves participating in it. And with my leadership and the skills that I've developed to partner with the community, work with the community. There's some people out here doing great work in the community that I want to find a way to further support those efforts, and then engage the community, meaning that we're having meetings, we're talking, we are aligned on our processes and what we want to see as far as our community, and making sure I represent that to the best of my ability if I'm elected.
Okay, thanks. You used the term vision. Yes. Talk a little bit about that. Exactly what is your vision, or exactly what is the vision you're working towards, and be as specific as you can.
Sure. So it's, Gil, I will say it's not my vision. It's the vision that I've interpreted and come to know that Fort Pierce is pushing forth. The vision that we're going to develop our downtown area. We're going to bring in a retail area and space down there that will attract tourists to our area. Well, I want to make sure our residents understand what those opportunities may be, from early construction jobs to the trade and craft skills that'll be needed to access those livable wage type jobs. So I want to make sure that they understand that vision is coming, and then what do they have to do to participate in it and prepare themselves to participate in that vision. Vision going forward is one I think would be of entrepreneurship. So making sure that the residents and the citizens of Fort Pierce, particularly those that are in the workforce, are prepared with what the workforce will look for. I think going are the days where we're going to see huge manufacturing companies coming in and employing large labor forces. There's more skill that people have and crafts and trades that they have, the more they'll be able to find those livable wage jobs around the Treasure Coast and maybe a little bit further beyond our borders, but they will be able to make livable wages. And that's just a vision that I have, that I've interpreted in talking to some of the citizens, as well as understanding the things I've seen coming from the city development plan. So when I say vision, it's not that Curtis Johnson has a vision. These are things that I see. I want to make sure the constituents understand it and see it and prepare for it. And then as things begin to unfold, what more can we do to enhance that vision? Port development obviously comes to mind as that company comes in and their jobs and opportunities. We want to make sure people understand that and as soon as possible, early as possible, that they understand, hey, these are the types of jobs that will be coming, or these are the types of opportunities that are coming to Fort Pierce. What are we doing now to make sure our residents are prepared and see themselves participating in this new vision?
Okay, thank you. Well, let's stick with that theme here. You mentioned some of the redevelopment going on. Most of that sort of focused in the downtown area, the waterfront area.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there are some parts of Fort Pierce that aren't sort of seeing the same amount of reinvestment, aren't seeing the same sort of economic opportunity. What can the city commission do to foster economic development in some of the neighborhoods where it might do the most good?
One of the things, thanks, Gil, that's a great question. One of the things that I'm really focused on, I'm a marketer. I have to make sure that we're telling our story correctly. I want to come in and look at the bad perception that the Lincoln Park Northwest section has and address that, because it is not bad. I've lived throughout these United States in some communities that are way more challenged than what we have here. This is an intimate community. We're a few degrees of separation. There are many people that know people that were born and raised here, that are related by marriages, and that there is a bad perception wrapped around that. So I think we need to address that immediately, begin to put in those opportunities to tell our story the way that we want it to be told, particularly when it comes to the Lincoln Park area. I live here. I was born and raised in this area. When I moved away, I would often come back. Of course, I had aging parents. I would always come back and spend time and check on them. I've seen a little progress, but I do know that to attract investors, we have to tell our story correctly. And I think the city commission can help shape that. I think we also have to address some things around trust in our own community. So some things that we can do for ourselves and some partnerships that we can form to demonstrate our abilities to work together and galvanize as a community, and then also let the commission know what these things are. And then I want to make sure that the commission is doing everything we possibly can to make it attractive for businesses to invest in the area. Let's be frank. The commission does not start businesses. We enhance, we entice, we involve people that want to start businesses, and we make it easier for them. So we need to make sure that whatever hurdles, whatever challenges that may be there, we need to address that, make sure that they're lowered as low as possible so that the entry point barrier for people starting businesses, particularly in this section of town, is done. And then we have to market that. We have to tell our story to these investors to make sure they have the complete story. One of the things that concerns me, Gil, and I've been following the census tract data, and being that I've been in business for 20 plus years, working for large companies, and now I work for myself, I understand what businesses look at when they look to make investment into businesses or brick and mortar. They look at the dynamics of discretionary income, meaning how much money will people have to spend after their expenses. They look at the makeup of that particular area. And what's troubling and concerning to me is that for, this year coming up again, and for the past 20 years, our census tract numbers have been very, very low when it comes to these two zip codes, mainly in the Lincoln Park area. And what that tells me is that when businesses look at these investment opportunities, we don't look very attractive on paper. And we have to correct that. We have to make sure our story is told. We have to make sure that businesses understand that, but we also have to get the trust of the citizens that live here to help us tell that story, because It's the information that they have about their income and people living in their houses and the number of people that populate this area that helps to tell that story. And we're coming up on a deadline here at the end of this month with the census, and our numbers are not where they need to be. In fact, they're where they were 10 years ago. And so when you ask me why I'm running and why I'm looking at this, because I believe that a candidate should put his trust, his credibility out there to help the people understand that we have to help ourselves. And the census is one of those ways to help with that, to bring money and resources federally to this area so that we can see the development of things like grocery stores, infrastructure repair, Head Start, federal government programs. So these are the things that I'm passionate about. And these are the things that I would be looking to highlight and make sure that the city commission is focused on, along with any other partnerships we can have. I understand there's an economic development council. Want to make sure that we are meeting and understanding what that strategic plan is and make sure we have attention focus on the Lincoln Park area. Okay,
very good, very good. I want to talk a little bit about law enforcement. It's been a pretty significant issue nationwide for obvious reasons. It's also been an issue in Fort Pierce in recent years. Fort Pierce, there have been some contention up there, I guess, involving the police chief and her relationship, I guess, with the department. There was a big Back the Blue rally a few weeks ago. What's your view of the job Fort Pierce police are doing? Is reform necessary?
Reform is always a tough one to I wouldn't categorize it as reform. I'm one that will always look to adjust and always approach those particular problems. I kind of live from a motto of you learn, you practice, you repeat, and you grow. And if you kind of take that approach to it, there's some things that we have learned and some things we need to go back and readdress as a result of learning some of the things we have in our community. Give for an example, before when the young man, Demarcus Seamer, yes. Demarcus Seamer, right?
Yes.
Before that shooting, there were no body cameras. As a result of that, there were body cameras. And so now we have addressed that particular issue. We need to further make sure that the functionality and everything is in line with that. I think we also need to learn from some things, unfortunately, that we have seen that come out of Minnesota, things that we've seen that come out of Louisville. And we need to make sure that we are constantly evaluating and constantly critiquing and asking the questions of our leaders in the police department to make sure that we're doing everything in Fort Pierce to avoid that particular incident happening here in this small city. I mean, Gil, we only have 11 square miles here, particularly in about the city of Fort Pierce, give or take. Maybe a little bit more with the beach areas, et cetera. But these are controllable square miles that we need to have an immediate impact on. And so when you say reform, there may be some instances where we uncover some things that do need to be reformed, but I think we have to begin to understand what's being addressed. We have to have those meetings with our public, our communities, and inform them that things are being addressed, because sometimes they don't hear what may be going on behind the scenes and they have questions. So I think we need to do our due diligence there. So could there be reform where we're doing more in community engagement? Absolutely. I think that's always healthy and possible. So that's my take on it. I'm always willing to learn and question and understand what I don't understand. And then we have to implement those things that are good standards that will move our community forward and serve and protect the people of the community. That's the job of law enforcement, and that's how I see it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about taxes here. It's an issue, a significant issue for some residents of the city. Fort Pierce has, I believe, the highest total property tax millage rate in all of Florida, according to Florida Tax Watch. That is not all the fault of the city. That involves county taxes, other levies as well.
Right.
Is it possible for the city to reduce its tax rate, or are the needs just too great? Is the need for investment just too great for that to be a realistic goal?
Gil, good question. I think we have to look at a couple folds when it comes to millage rate. And you're right, with the combined city county, yes, it may be up there. I just recently looked at some millage rates in the city itself. The millage they voted recently to remain the same. I do realize that property taxes went up due to the valuation of properties in our area. So that may, on paper, affect the millage rate, but it wasn't something that the city said, hey, we're going to actually increase the rate that is applied to it. I think we have to do some careful examination of what those millage rates are. I think whenever we can remain constant with them, I think we have to. And if there are cases that we can lower it, we can. What concerns, of course, when you start lowering rates and reducing, what services will be impacted as a result? We all know that less money coming in will mean less operating income for those services that are delivered and that the citizens expect. So that has to be a dialogue between the citizens as well as the governing body to make sure that the citizens are fully informed when we're talking about adjusted millage rates. I think that we need to explore more options in the city. I think that if we begin to market and bring in businesses, medium-sized businesses, small businesses getting started, those types of revenues coming in here, of course, will help to bring and offset some of that. But of course, it's tough to bring it in if the millage rates are higher. I get that, but there has to be a balance there. We're going to have to try to work really hard to bring in those businesses, to get the infrastructure filled in and get some of these blotted, dilapidated buildings redone, torn down, rebuilt, etc. And we're going to have to attract some industry in here that can help offset some of that before we actually begin to look at how we can lower some of these things, because we can lower them, but there will be a tough conversation to say, as a result, we're going to have to cut services here or there. And if the public's willing, and I'm all about informing the public, then as the public says so, then we shall move accordingly.
Okay, very good. I want to return to something you had mentioned a little bit ago when you were talking about the census.
Yes.
And you used the term fostering the community's trust, I guess, in.
Yeah.
So what can the commission do to build that trust? What could you do as a commissioner?
Well, I've watched the city commission for many years. I know the sitting city commission. They are a very tenured group of people. The two that represent District 1 have been very tenured here. They have trust, they have followers, they have constituents in this community. And I think that they need to make public statements about how important it is for us, this community, to get behind the census. I've been out in the street talking to people up and down. There's a real bad misperception about the census and what it is and how that data is calculated. And people are afraid, they're intimidated, and we're hurting ourselves with that. I mean, Fort Pierce is a melting pot, particularly in the Northwest section, of many different communities. I mean, we have the Haitian Creole community, we have the Latina community here. We have many different nationalities within the African American community here. So, and we have, European Americans that live in this community. And so when you have a melting pot like this, we have to do everything we can to get that trust up in these communities and go to these communities and have very frank, very upfront conversations, because they need to understand that this is something that's controllable. These are federal dollars that's allocated based on where the people are. And if they can't understand that, and we can't lend any kind of trust or credibility as an elected official, because we're all out here right now asking for your vote. We're asking for you to trust us to go up here and legislate for us. Why not ask them to come and do something for us so that they can legislate more to bring federal monies to Fort Pierce, Florida? Gil, these numbers are the same and coming in at the same rate that they've come in for the past 20 years. Something has got to change.
Okay. Thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit about water quality in the Indian River Lagoon. It's a perpetual issue in the city. Obviously there's other agencies with much more clout to address this. Is the city doing enough, though? Is the city doing its part to ensure clean water? And if not, what more could the city do?
Well, let's put it like this. If I'm elected or any elected official, we will not have a Flint situation here in Fort Pierce, Florida. We need to get on top of this right away. Water is the most precious commodity that we all need to survive. We all need it. It goes to the poor. It goes to the rich. We all need water, and make sure we do everything to protect our waterways, the waters that our bodies, the waters that we bathe our skin in, and the water that we give our young adults. And so I'm a big proponent of making sure that, you know, these things, as far as the city commission can do, that I'm asking those questions. I think that's what maybe you're asking of me. It's something that I'm very cognizant of. I know personally some people that have suffered as a result of what happened in Flint, Michigan, as a result of some decisions made there. And that's the last thing that I or any person on any commission would want to see, particularly when it comes to our community. You know, I need to make sure I do some more evaluation to make sure we have the highest standards possible when it comes to testing our water. You know, without, you know, we're in deep trouble here. Water is essential, not only for nourishment of our bodies, but it helps to grow the things that we ingest for nourishment of our bodies. And so if we don't have clean water and we're polluting that, we're in big trouble. And also we use our water here in Fort Pierce for recreation, right? Everyone enjoys that because there are a lot of fishermen around and things like that. A lot of us live off of what comes out the ocean, and we don't want to pollute that. And that's also an economic engine that has brought money to the city of Fort Pierce, and we want to make sure we maximize that as much as possible.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the redevelopment projects that are going on sort of in the along the water area. You've got the Port of Fort Pierce project. You've got the King's Landing, the former H.G. King site, which recently hit a little bit of a snag when there was some pilings or some debris found underground. The city commission voted to spend another $170,000 to remove. It's I believe, an $82 or an $85 million project.
Yeah.
A lot of hopes are sort of wrapped up in this. Are you satisfied with the progress of these projects, or do you think, you know, city commission needs to maybe crack the whip a little bit more on these and make sure that they're gonna come to fruition to the extent that everyone expects them to?
Well, Gil, the last time I checked, I think we have a commitment, and I think we have some ironclad. Of course, everything can go up right before us, but we certainly don't want that to happen. I'm excited about the opportunity of bringing that $85 million development in. I alluded to that earlier. That not only means tourism and economics for the area, but I'm looking at the opportunities for livable wage opportunities for my community, and I'm banking on that. So I think we need to continue to have conversations with the developer. I was at a meeting recently. He gave an update. He alluded that things were still on track. So as far as I know, from maybe just a couple months ago, everything has been on track. And I do a pretty good job of trying to stay up on what's happening with city commission and the conference agenda. So I haven't heard anything yet will cause me to have any alarm or any skepticism that this project will not take place. I applaud this current commission that's moving forward with it. Again, I see this as not only a retail end on the back end of drawing tourism and conventions to the city of Fort Pierce, which means an economic boost for the entire city of Fort Pierce. But I also see this as the great opportunity for my community in particular, with people that I know that have great skills, that have great abilities to do great craftsmanship type jobs, to get themselves prepared to help build this structure that's coming to downtown. And I want to make sure I do everything I can to highlight what those opportunities are and make sure that my community and the city of Fort Pierce is prepared so that the residents can take advantage of this opportunity. Okay.
Very good. Do you think that message has been communicated so far to the residents of Fort Pierce? Opportunity. You keep using that term, and you may well be right. Are you right?
I live here. I I have not heard it articulated or stressed enough. I'm glad for the opportunity today. When I have conversations around campaigning, it's something that I, as an opportunity to make sure that the people of my community in particular know that this opportunity is for you. And we need to do everything we can. And I'm certainly doing my part to make sure that people know and that people start to prepare themselves. I mean, we have a great institution here with the college. There may be some partnerships that we can do there. We may need to begin to have those conversations with the developer so that we have these town halls to say, hey, this is what's coming and this is what I'm looking for and this is what we need. That's certainly something that I can get behind, Gil. And it's certainly something that I would like to see stressed more from the city leaders, particularly those that are leading in District 1.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's switch now from policy to personal. This question we ask of many of our candidates, and it gives sort of insight into the candidate as a person. Talk about a time that you faced a difficult moral or ethical decision, either on a personal or professional level. What happened, and how did you make the right choice?
Well, Gil, we've all faced some challenges. I'm no perfect person. I've gone through many things that many people in the world have gone through. I've gone through a divorce. I have teetered on the brinks of bankruptcy, meaning that times are tough. I lost an opportunity job I had, and I had to kind of recalibrate myself and get myself back in line. And, it was one of those decisions that it was a last minute decision, but I decided not to go through and file and actually go through with the bankruptcy case. I put in the paperwork. I did not go and go before the judge and try to liquidate my assets. I found a way to work myself out of that situation, and I'm still working myself out of that situation. So it was the right thing to do. It was something that weighed heavily on my conscience because it was something that, people of the African-American community, don't fare well with. And it was something that I heavily considered. It makes me human. Many people that have lost jobs, lost houses as opposed to economic downturns, facing that. Some of us are facing this right now as we speak with this pandemic. And so it makes me a more passionate, compassionate leader. I understand pain. I understand loss. I understand having to start all over and rebuild. Even if you are so-called educated, those of us that have gone on to college and earned degrees, we also have setbacks. And so, no matter where you are, if you're trying to climb up the ladder or you're falling down the ladder, you still have to get back on the ladder and begin to work yourself back. And that makes me human. It's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I understand, and I understand from those lessons to appreciate each and every day. Don't take it for granted, and to work to do your very best. And in the end, that's all you can do. Okay,
very good. I'm going to open it up to our board members here. If any of them have any questions for you. Larry or Adam, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have one quick question. Curtis, can you talk about an example of a time when you served on a collegial body, a nonprofit board, say, or a committee, and you disagreed with others on an important issue? How are you able to either get others to see your point of view or understand that their idea was better?
So Larry, thank you for that question. I've served on many nonprofits. I'm a small business owner. I'm a leadership development coach. I work with nonprofits and I teach them methods of communication. So it's a little bit of a challenging question for me, from the simple fact is because I understand communication and I actively practice it. And so I know sometimes when to shut up and I know sometimes when to ask the right questions, get others to chime in, because I teach leaders this, I teach boards this. And so it's difficult to answer because I work with a lot of nonprofits and I've sat on a lot of nonprofit boards. and I actively practice what I call engaging communication, meaning that I want to hear from everybody around the table. I begin to understand what I don't know when I understand what others don't know or what they're telling me. And I practice that. So for me, it's difficult to answer because I actively practice it. It's something that I teach. It's something that I believe in. There are times, of course, where I do and have gone with others because their decisions were better and the right decision to make. But I do believe in having full discussion and hearing all sides of the argument. And in the end, it comes down to a democracy type process where we make a decision. And after that decision is made, we also come back and make a consensus that we're all moving forward right now as a result of this decision, be it if we agreed with it or not. We're moving as a team and we're focused on that. And so that's how I lead my life. That's how I run my business. And that's how I help other businesses grow that I work with in my business that I run for myself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Back to you, Gil. You're muted, I think.
Hey, Gil, you're muted.
That's the problem with these things, right?
Yeah. You were saying something very important there too. I could see.
It was extremely important, and now it's lost to history. All right. No, I was going to say we're about at the end here. I want to thank you for your time and give you an opportunity here, sort of our final bit. If there's something that you want to talk about that we didn't touch on, or if you'd like to make sort of a closing statement, please.
Well, Gil, thank you for the opportunity to meet with the editorial board and TCPalm for this tremendous opportunity. You know, I'm excited for the people of Fort Pierce. The people of Fort Pierce, as I've made my way and talked to many in this community, they're hardworking people. They are very prideful people. I come from this community. I was born and raised here. My mother taught school at Lincoln Park for 33 years. She taught a subject called home economics and taught during the days of segregation. So she helped people to make homes economically viable and economically function. And so her mission was that. My father was a longshoreman. My father was a licensed funeral director for many years, up until his death at the age of 91. My parents taught me what it is to love this community. My parents raised me in this community. You know, my grandmother, my early formative years, you know, I spent a lot of time with her in the housing projects because that was my first babysitter. Like many of us that grew up here, was with our grandmothers. And so those lessons that I learned from these people and my grandfather stick with me to this day. And those are things that resonate on my mind when it comes down to tough decisions, when it comes down to leadership, and when it comes down to engaging our community to make sure the community is informed. The one thing I can tell you about Fort Pierce people is that when they're informed, when they know, when they understand, they begin to make the moves necessarily to not only protect themselves and do for themselves, but they also make those moves that are going to be better for Fort Pierce as a whole. This is a small community. We want to continue to unite this community and partner with this community going forward. I am running today as a city commissioner for District 1, Seat 3. I'm from Fort Pierce. I'm for Fort Pierce. And if you're looking for a change, something that is going to be different than what you have heard over the past 20 years, I'm asking for your vote. Early balloting will come out next week with the absentee mail ballots. My name will be on that ballot. The one thing you must understand is that the primaries, which were held in August, 61% of the people voted for somebody besides the current incumbent. And so that lets me know that Fort Pierce is looking for a change, and I'm looking to be that elected representative of the people and for the people. I'm Curtis Johnson Jr. I would appreciate your support. Please visit my website at www.curtisjohnsonjr2020.com. That's Curtis Johnson Jr. 2020.com to learn more about me or to make a campaign contribution. I'll be in the streets this week, meeting and greeting and on the corner. So I look forward to seeing you, Fort Pierce. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank Mr. Johnson for being here. Thank you for your time, sir. And I want to thank our editorial board members as well. If you missed any part of this interview, you can go and restart it from the beginning on our Facebook page. It's also on our YouTube channel. Stick with us here at TCPalm. We have editorial board political interviews all day today. And I want to thank our editorial board members for being here, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.